Here.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a Wednesday edition of Back Your Play with Q. I'm your host, as always, Rich Quinones. Check us out on the YouTube channel at Rich Q on Q, and of course on Twitter and IG at Rich Q on Q. As we got dogs in the background, we got air flowing in from New York into Jersey. We're trying to pick winners, and we got our guy who joins us for his weekly spot, Professor Shine at Professor Shine. Check him out on Twitter from our good friends over at Played Against Sports, 1450 Clenchford Road, Deptford, New Jersey, open 7 days a week. I mean, we got the poor Iron Sheik, God rest his soul, the greatest heel ever, passing away at the age of 81. You got Denver, Miami, you got baseball. Oakland decides to win another game. I mean, what the hell is going on in the world right now?
I was a little sad about Iron Sheik, I mean, well, a lot sad. Number one, I didn't realize he was 81.
Yeah.
And number two, maybe think back to the greatest era of wrestling, I think, was in this area when he beat Backlund. And then with the next month or the second 2 months later, they put him in with Hogan, and then with the next year after that was WrestleMania.
Oh yeah.
Which was just an insane time, which was because anybody followed wrestling back then as a kid, Backlund had like 1,000 wins against people he had no business beating. And finally, when he lost, I remember he's like, well, wait a minute, he lost?
Oh, yeah. I still got one of my first VHS tapes. I remember I recorded, I think it was like SummerSlam in like 87, 88. I think Hulk Hogan basically punched Zeus like right between the eyes. And like that, pretty much that was like his Achilles heel, right? And it crossed him up, right? And that was pretty much it.
Remember he got caught on Jersey Turnpike with Hacksaw Jim Dugan with pot in the car. That was like a blip in the Philly Daily News.
Man.
We're like, wait a minute, they're supposed to be against each other. What's going on?
That's funny, man. That's funny.
The Sheik was entertaining. Was I mean, he really was from Iran too.
Yeah, he was from Iran. Exactly, man. I mean, he held true to the name, the Iron Sheik.
That's true.
All right, so all right, I guess supposedly now we have an NBA Finals, right? Denver takes game 1, Miami bounces back game 2, 111-108. Again, you live and die by the 3-point shot. They were 17 of 35. The two Bs actually stepped up, right? Butler with 21, Bam with 21 as well. But again, I see that line is now crept down. It was 3.5. It's sitting at 3 in some books. Tonight, Denver finally on the road. So Miami hosts an NBA Finals game. Thoughts on this one in the series thus far?
Well, it was 1.5 earlier. All day yesterday it was 1.5. I bet the Nuggets. It went all the way back up. Well, not all the way, but it took a little bit of a jump. I mean, the sides are tough, but I think game 2, I was not surprised about. The Nuggets have been unbelievably hot from 3 against the Lakers, and even in game 1. And I think it was going to be tough to keep being as hot. Murray was really hot. And of course, the Heat played really good team defense.
Yep.
And you see Spoelstra got mad at a question that was asked. I made a comment about it on Twitter. Somebody said, is that the strategy against Joker?
Joker.
Make him score and not get everybody involved. And Spoelstra got open. I think it's a little gamesmanship maybe, because I think that's exactly what Spoelstra's doing. And the first thing I thought of watching the game was when Popovich did this back when the Suns with Nash, and they let Nash score. It seemed like an odd strategy, but remember in the first game, he had like 48, 49 points, and the Suns lost. And the thing being is, the guy is so difficult to defend when he can get 4 other guys involved.
Right.
Maybe it's best. It seems silly, like, well, why would you let him score? Well, you still guard him, but other people aren't getting easy baskets. And if you watch Joker even a little bit, especially the last 2 months or just in these playoffs, he gets other people really easy baskets. Whether it's pick and roll and dish, or when he rolls the basket, gets himself an easy basket. If you try to just force him to be the shooter, it takes everybody out of the game. It seems like an odd strategy, but I watched the game a second time. It seems like that's what they're doing. It looked like it worked.
Yeah, you know what, too, what happens, is when you also, they score, 130 points per 100 possessions. So when you hit half your threes, when you win the turnover battle, right? I mean, what did they not allow Denver to do, right? We don't want you to get in transitional offense. We don't want to see that transitional game, transitional bucket. So, I think some of the threes were pretty much bad perimeter defense and breakdowns, and that's what happens. I mean, they need to win the battle of the mismatches tonight, meaning talking about Miami, meaning if you got poor rotation, guys not, proper double team, miscommunications, poor rotations. And if Miami lives and dies by the three game, if they go 17-35, hell, 18-42, 18-44, chances are they're going to be right in this game in the fourth quarter. And we're not even talking about potentially covering the game, but they might be able to win this game outright, especially being at home.
Whoever wins this game, I mean, the Friday's game, I guess that's when the next game would be Friday night.
Yes.
Friday's game becomes huge, huge, huge.
Oh, well, it's a series. I mean, you win that if
no matter what.
tonight,
Every series is like that. But I expect this to be a close game, but I do think Denver will win. But if they don't, Friday gets really, really interesting. Every game's interesting in this because it's a new game too would be interesting because more competitive, I think is the better word, because game one had a lot of negatives like we spoke about before. The obvious headaches that the Heat had.
Yep.
7 games,
Yep.
you have to travel.
Yep.
You're up in the altitude. If I got a chance, if we got a chance to speak before game one, I would have said that it was, it looked for them around the third quarter to kind of fade. And notice the Heat were fading, and then early fourth quarter they got their second win.
Yeah.
And put up a pretty good fight. They could have lost by 30 in that game.
Yeah.
And they put up a fight. And then I just kind of I knew that, this is a marathon. You got to save your legs for the later rounds, the later kick or the later miles. And I think I knew they were going to come out and do a better effort in game two. And I think they would win. But I thought it'd be much more competitive, and look what happened. They pulled away late. They play good team defense, Richie. They do. It's a cliche almost, but they really, really, really play really good team defense. They always did. Spoelstra always did. Even the years after they had the big three, they've been competitive. 2020 in the bubble, they're competitive. It all comes from the defense. I know because I bet a lot of their unders in the regular season the last few years, even when they didn't have, all the pieces that they have now.
Yeah, I remember, it's funny because we thought maybe it was going to go the other way in that game 7 against Boston. And, it was funny. All right, punch Miami in the mouth and watch them fold in the fourth quarter. And then it was conversely punch Boston in the mouth. You knew from the get-go that was kind of going to be a dogfight. And then they wound up, breaking the Celtics' will and just embarrassing them at home in a game 7 where nobody stepped up for the Celtics. And I say to say this, if this series goes, past, well, obviously now 5 games, maybe potentially 6, maybe even a game 7, if you're Denver, you're almost of the mindset, kind of like Boston was, like, man, what the hell do we need to do to put these guys out of here? Like, I believe in an NBA finals. I don't look at it as, we'll make up the game down the road. Like, I don't subscribe to that theory. You know how you were saying about a week or so ago? Well,
game 5. It was game 5.
Yeah.
I just thought that it was, sometimes you have, it's not when you're up 3-1, it's not a do or die. no matter what level of competitiveness you play in, you play hard, play hard, and then you look up and you're down 11, and it's 2 minutes left in the third. Mentally, I think a lot of these teams, uh, I don't want to say coast, but
Right.
not everybody's on the same page. I don't think you give the exact same effort. That's what happened in Game 5 to Miami, and then badly for them is they lost a fluke, Game 6, and came back with that same resolve that they had in Game 6 with Game 7, and it hurt that the Celtics, that Tatum hurt his ankle, but I still think they would have lost. Just one of those things, and I think we're seeing a team that has a superstar or a borderline superstar, and then the rest of the guys know their role.
Yeah.
And really commit to defense, and they all. That's why I don't think Tyler Hero being back. Who cares? He doesn't guard anybody.
No, he's defensive
It's
liability.
always great to have a shooter. The Sixers were one shooter short from beating the Celtics. They needed one guy who spot up shooter who could make a shot in a big. So I'm not going to condemn shooters only, but you can tell everybody that plays besides Hero, they play days. I'm checking out. There's a replay here of the wide open threes that the Heat were getting in Game 2. If I can see, I just think the pattern of how this is going to go. I think this is going to be a close game. I think the Nuggets will win, and the line will be similar Friday, and I can see the Heat winning a close game. Where this will be really interesting for everybody, and I think in a good way, would be is if this goes 7. I think it'd be good for ratings, good for the league, because everybody's so depressed not having Celtics, Lakers, peripheral fans. I mean, they're like, wow. And, I see there was this one guy who's younger than both of us who writes for Sports Illustrated. So, there's nothing sexy about. There's no storyline Nuggets Heat. And he said it in some interview, and there's always a storyline. Yes, would the Celtics Lakers be a great one? Yeah, but this isn't that bad either. If it goes 7, it will be good. Although the ratings for Game 1 were pretty bad.
If it goes 7, it justifies a lot, though. It just then you take the Monday morning quarterbacking where, well, you did get two of the teams that 2 of the best teams, or at least one of the best teams with the MVP. I do like Denver tonight. I'm still Miami to me. Again, these are the types of games where you're not getting 21 from Bam. You're going to need 28 to 30 plus from Jimmy. And I can see Joker having one of those nights where it's 35, 13, and 13. I mean, I think the first quarter is going to dictate a lot in this game. I think Miami needs to kind of slow it down. And when they can get in transitional buckets, take advantage of it, half court offense. But I don't know, man. I just don't see it. I'm hard pressed to think Bam would give you that type of effort again.
Well, it's hard to say that. I don't think he will. What did Joker's assist last game? What did he have? 4 or 5? It was way lower.
But he also had, I think he had like 16 rebounds or so.
Yeah, but they want the assists seem unimportant unless they come from in this situation.
He makes the right pass.
Unless they're a center.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
When Magic used to get assists, and they would be like, "Well, that's not the bread and butter."
Yep.
The offense. You want them to score and get rebounds and have a good, well-rounded thing. But the way that Nuggets offense is, you'd rather Joker have 38 and 15 than have 47 and 4, because it means he other guys didn't get. It's almost guaranteed the rest of
41, 4, and 11.
efficiency.
Yep, 41, 4, and 11.
4. Yeah, it's just a more efficient offense. If Joker and other people involved, I think it's going to be. I think they know it. Nuggets know it, and if the Nuggets know it and can impose it, they should be able to. They should win. What's the total on this game? The total's low too. Geez, it was 216. It's 214. I haven't really done anything with the totals in probably like 2 weeks,
I
but
think this is a game where Denver's up by 12, 15 going in the fourth. Then they're going to give up a couple runs here and there. And I definitely think, um, I think it goes over.
nobody likes unders except for me. Yeah, I don't have an idea, but I'm very leery on anytime I play overs against a team that can absolutely go in the tank shooting like the way that he can and plays good defense. But then again, the Nuggets are like the opposite. You know, the Nuggets don't play as good as defense as normal championship teams. So the lines is correct. If somebody was to give me 219, obviously, but uh, I got 1.5 on Denver. I'm happy with it. Uh, and I'm looking forward to a good game. I'm actually I don't like the 2 days off. I know it's a travel day, but I don't like the 2 days off after this. I get it. Like if somebody sprained their ankle, you don't want to, God forbid, Jimmy Butler tweaks an ankle or something. You don't want to see that screw up game 3. I mean, game 4. You don't have to screw up game. So I get the 2 days. Lost a little bit of juice, I think, but there's nothing else on. The smog out here on the East Coast is killing all the baseball. There'll be nothing
Horrible.
to do but to watch the game.
What'd you think? What'd you think of the Sixers hire?
I thought it was good. People laughed at me locally because I would have taken a look at Vogel. I've always liked Vogel because he's local. He's a local guy. I know he's from Wildwood. he he was raised down here. He went to but he's a lot like Spoelstra and some of these other guys. They didn't start as big time college coaches like Billy Donovan or anything like that. They started as managers and video coordinators and learned from the best and kind of worked their way up. But I like Nick Nurse too. He won a title. I just listened to PJ Carlissimo on radio earlier today, and I expect him to be kind of an apologist for coaches. But he rated both Nurse and Vogel pretty close. He was surprised Doc got fired, which is surprising to even hear a coach defender say that. Doc had to go.
Absolutely.
Obviously,
Yeah.
I'm actually okay with the Celtics keeping their coach. If they gotten swept, it would have been a different situation.
Right.
I think they did battle back. Can make an excuse if you're say, well, if Tatum doesn't hurt his ankle, maybe it's a different
Right.
game. Blah blah blah. You're not supposed to lose that series.
Nope. Not supposed
They
to
were
lose that
lucky.
game.
Not supposed to lose that game. Not supposed to lose, 2 at home. The first 2 at home. You got to if you split that, it's different. It's it's a thing where it's like, oh, is everybody taking the heat lightly? It's if they win the title, it looks like everybody was wrong about the Heat. I mean, they're a good team. They're a good team, including the market, including the smartest people, combined in the market were wrong. I think they're going to come up short, but it was bad for the Celtics to lose that game and to lose that series. But if they gotten swept, it's like unbelievably bad.
Yeah.
You cannot get swept as big a favorite they are and as high a seed that they were. So my point was, I think you keep for the he could stay, was all good, but Doc had to go.
So real quick with Nurse though, any concern though, he plays these guys, man, he runs them into the frigging ground. So like if you're thinking about futures and maybe Embiid for MVP, I mean, I would sit there right off the bat and say this guy's going to miss at least 15 to 20 because he's not going to be able to play 38 minutes.
I think there's without a doubt he does not he does not play more than 60 games, Embiid, and he got his MVP, and sadly that I don't want to say it was more important, but it was obviously a big deal, and now all the voters are embarrassed because of the way Joker played, and I mean Embiid could average 50 and 20 next year. He's not going to win the MVP. He probably wouldn't even be top 5. But as far as your point, as far as playing games, yeah, well, that's going to be the new NBA. I mentioned it last month. The new NBA, Jimmy Butler played what, 62 games or 61 games this year. You almost force these guys to have load management in minutes because the playoffs are potentially so long. And when you get to be 30, 31, 32, 33, guy in the bar could be like, they're athletes, they can play. But it's 100 plus games, plus preseason, plus it is.
NBA is a long season, man.
It's a long season. And when I hear this narrative, I don't know if you saw, I posted that on Twitter. Every once a year, I posted on Twitter about this narrative of rust. And I said, rust to me doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in team sports. Show me some data where it exists. It doesn't exist in boxing, where if you haven't boxed in a while and people overtrain, that's definitely a thing. But team sports, you get to be 31, 32. They were saying about the Eagles. You think Jason Kelsey didn't want an extra 2 weeks off? You know what I mean? It's like you sweep the team. That's why, look, it wasn't a coincidence that Harden came back and played so well in game 1. They had 9 days off or whatever it was. You get to be older. You want that time off. Now, they were saying it with
Uh-oh. Always making the good point. So we have to wait for the prop to join us back. I think we just lost the video, but I think what he was saying, talking about these team sports, and a lot of times, with ages and whatnot, and I would probably agree to that, no doubt. I also think, it's a situation where, when we're talking individual sports, maybe a little different scenario when we're talking about some of these individual awards, right? We talk about some of these individual awards. So let's see if we can punch him back up. Let me just see right here. Trying to pull up some numbers. So what I was going to say is when we're talking about some of these individual awards, I mean, for like a guy like Embiid, I can't take a flyer on him. When we're talking about all these games, I just can't do that. I can see him missing probably 15 to 20 games. That's just me. So I would be hard pressed to kind of put a flyer on him to win an MVP again. That's just tough, man. I can't do that. I would also probably say, like, the difference too in the NFL is that, we're looking at some of these players who probably are, the quarterback position, for instance. So we'll get Shine back in here in a moment. The quarterback position for a moment. You're talking about the MVP in the NFL, all the years that it was Rodgers, that it was Brady, that it was Mahomes. These guys, it seemed as though, 16, 17 game season in the NFL, a totally different animal, right? If you have stretches of 4, 5, 6, 7 games where you're lighting the world on fire, then I think that's a scenario, that's a situation where you can run away with an MVP. You just need, that 6, 7, 8 game season, or 6, 7, 8 game stretch where you're just playing lights out. And we've seen it in the past. That's why a lot of times when you see the odds start to fluctuate, when a quarterback plays poorly over a 2 to 3 week stretch, it's a totally different animal. NBA though, if you've had one of these seasons where you're consistent, right, all the way through, and if maybe you're carrying a team into the playoffs, maybe if you're carrying a team that's a 6 seed, a 7 seed, an 8 seed, and you get them into the playoffs, then I think when you're talking about MVP. It's a different animal. So what I was saying before, to reconnect, when we're talking about the MVPs and talking about with the NFL, what's that? Well, you got to unmute. There he is. So there you go.
Yeah, it's outside. It's crazy.
Yeah.
The whole East Coast is a mess.
Horrible. I was saying that before you had to reconnect, when I was talking a little bit about the MVP with the NFL, you can have 6, 7, 8 week stretches where you can win the award. The NBA, it's pretty much, are you the most consistent player through 80 something odd games, notwithstanding the playoffs. And that's why guys like Rodgers, Brady, Mahomes, all those years, who are you going to argue were the best quarterbacks? I think in the NBA, it's a little different, right?
It's a lot different, yeah, because the season's longer. I will say that I know people they tend to forget or ignore if you come out on fire October, November, December. Because remember, Tatum was tearing it up, and I think he was right there that everybody's thinking, oh my gosh. And then Doncic started playing unbelievably.
Yep.
And
Giannis.
we got into January.
Yep.
And then I remember seeing numbers across the board for the top 5 guys. And I remember thinking as we got to the end of January that, man, no one's going to vote for Luka if the Mavericks don't make the playoffs, or barely make the playoffs. And I said, Tatum's going to cool down. And Joker was playing better, and Embiid was sitting there at 10 or 12 to 1. And I said, who has a shot here? And I was like, if he can play, because at that time he was playing decently, and then he went on that tear. He played like 7 out of 10 games. He played just unbelievably. And it's kind of like, then he coasted, and then it mattered that last year he had played so close to Joker, and they thought that many people, especially in this town, thought that Embiid should have won and blah blah blah.
Yeah. Yep.
But I mean, I thought it was egregious that he was 10 or 12 to 1. I was basically saying he had no shot, and you get a little bit lucky, but I think that's where you can win the award. So if you plan out how you're going to rest. I mentioned before, 20 years ago, 18 years ago, Shaq used to plan out his rest. And it was, they go on these trips. It was back when you go on those 5-game trips, West Coast, same thing with the East Coast, 5-game trips. And on that trip was some dog crap. You would play the weaker team, and Shaq wouldn't even play the second half. They'd get up, whatever, and he would coast. And, in that road trip, there'd be 1 or 2 solid games, and he would play those games full tilt. And then they come back, and then they play a middle tier team, and he'd play a little bit, but he didn't have, and in a sense, that was a way of taking off, because before they called it load management or whatever. But with the expanded playoffs, I think you're going to see more of that, and I don't think anybody's going to care, because look how the NBA is based on. It's not based like baseball with totals. It's based on averages.
Correct.
I mean, nobody knows what Embiid's total points were, but they can say they averaged 32. So it doesn't matter if you average 32 in 64 games or 81.
Yeah.
None of that matters.
Yeah, it's actually it's a pretty good point that you bring up. So we're both in agreement. We like Denver tonight. Not sure which way we're going to go as far as the total. Hey, listen. So I know we touched a little bit about a week or so ago, and I know we only have a couple more minutes. Baseball. I mean, this is crazy, right? So, we were laughing the other day. We were having fun with each other with Nola, and then he turns around, he pitches a friggin' gem. I
think he pitched back-to-back good games.
Is he the most? He's like an enigma, man. Like he definitely is an enigma.
If you notice, I had some numbers on it. Like it's almost, I don't know what I did, but pretty much I'll give the anecdotal part of it without the hard data. It seems like when he falls apart quickly. If he makes one or two bad pitches, he'll make like 8. So if he doesn't, if he doesn't make those bad pitches, he's okay.
Yep.
It's almost like a poker guy who gets bad beat, gets one bad beat and he just goes right in the tank and just completely screws his game up. When Noel was going bad, he was going bad. It even happened in late last season and in the playoffs. He'd have 3 good innings. You're like, wow, he's here. And then one, it was just like, wow, one pitch, a guy one-hands it, it barely gets out of the stadium. It's almost like 2009 Hamill. Yeah. 2009 Hamill was kind of in that weird mental state where, if anything, he made any bad pitch, he just was like, oh, doing this. And guy made an error in the field. He was like, oh.
I never thought Aaron Nola was a bona fide ace or number one.
I never thought he was a number one. We've agreed with this probably 5-6 years. He's not a true. He's a decent 2.
Agree.
And remember, last year we were like, maybe he's not a 2. But
yeah, you're right. I mean, there's 2 sometimes.
He's a 2 sometimes. And after his one bad outing a couple weeks ago, I heard somebody saying, or I read it somewhere, would you be better off, trading him or getting rid of him? It creates even a bigger problem because he's good enough. You can't really find a better replacement. But he is what he is. He's not a number one. He's not an ace. And I think if you expect that, you won't be disappointed. So you want him to have 2 or 3 or 4 decent outings. You want him to have some, be up there, maybe quality starts, but know that he's going to have a couple games where he just gets bombarded or worse. He pitches 5 good innings. He's in a 2-1 game, and you lose that game 7-2 because he made 5 bad pitches. Overall, the Phillies are going to have him pitch better. Everybody's going to have to pitch a little better. Wheeler's been fine, but everybody else got their pitching is why they're under 500. They squeaked out a good game against the Tigers. They won 4 in a row. This is kind of what they need. They need to make a 15-6 run. And then they can, if they hover around that, I mean, if you look at the National League, who's going to make the playoffs? No, there's no. Atlanta's heart is going to make it. Obviously the Dodgers are going to make it. Arizona's having a great year, which you predicted beginning of the year.
Yep. Milwaukee, right?
Milwaukee started out hot. They hit a bump. They're kind of
Pittsburgh, same thing. Pittsburgh started off hot, and now all of a sudden.
Well, I expect Pittsburgh was 20-9.
Yeah, they don't have the staying power.
Yeah, I've been actually looking for reasons. Right around when people start talking about them. Wow, look how hot they are. The best team ever. That's when you start look for them to go, 18-25. The next 5 or 6 dozen games. And that's kind of what happened. You see, they got smoked by the A's today. They gave up 9 runs to the A's this afternoon, and they were like laying like 185 or something crazy. Like, I knew the A's stink, but you want to beat the A's up when they're playing against the elite. Lay the 280 or whatever because it's still too low. But in these kind of games where they're playing middle tier teams, 185 is too much for Pittsburgh to lay. But I don't think Pittsburgh's gonna make the playoffs. The Mets probably maybe come back. They'll be right around there, and the Phillies are going to be right in that. So there's, was it 6 teams make the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
So as long as the Phillies don't fall, as long as they're not staying there, they're 32-45. Then you got a problem. But if they're 38, 39, 40, and 30, it should be okay. You're playing with fire because guys can get hurt and things like that. But remember, they played a month without Harper.
Yep,
matters a little bit. And then the AL, you have a lot more teams that are playing. Remember, the whole AL East is I think above 500. I mean, Tampa's played well. Baltimore's played well. The Yankees. Toronto's decent. Boston's decent. Texas is far and away above. And then you see what what happened to DeGrom,
Yeah, it's
which
unfortunate.
is, geez, I mean, oh my gosh, if that didn't happen to DeGrom, I mean, Texas almost be like the favorite in a sense, and be close to it, close to Tampa.
Yeah, the other thing too that I was thinking of when you start to look at some of these teams, like they're going to hit they're going to hit some walls, so to speak, right? Um, so even when you like the Mets, right? The Mets, everyone thinks they're imploding a little bit. I mean, they've had some injuries, they've had some struggles. Arizona, they're trying to maintain pace with Milwaukee. You mentioned Pittsburgh coming back down to reality. The NL West is probably your most stacked division, but how much do we trust the Giants, the Dodgers, the Padres? So I think I still give it, another 15 to 20 games before we can really figure out what the hell's going on.
Well, through 40, I always look at the quarter of the season, uh, to see where everybody's at, because you can't win the division the first 40 or 45, but you can dig a hole that you can't get out of.
Yeah.
I can only think of 1 year where a team, I'm sure there's another example, but I remember the Astros in like 06 or right around or 05. I think the White Sox beat the Astros in the World Series in 05. And remember, the Astros were way behind all year. And then they just played unbelievably in September. Oh, Colorado in 07. They went 22-1 or something to finish the year. And then remember, they beat Arizona in the playoffs and they got swept to
Yep.
Boston. But, outside of that, those are the anomalies. I think the strategy is almost like with the really good Yankees teams did those years when they knew they were better than everybody else, and they had some early injuries, and they would play close to the vest, play 60% baseball at home,
Yep.
be 50-50 on the road, and then once September came, you're in playoff mode. It's a dangerous way to play. It's almost like what you see some hockey teams play. Who cares about who's the number one team for the regular season? Just get healthy for the playoffs, kind of thing. And you're going to start to see that in baseball. You're going to start to see just. I think the Dodgers, you almost kind of have that attitude with the Padres. I don't want to say coast, but it's almost like they play, hey, let's win 2-3 here, not get swept, and then hopefully we get everybody healthy in this after the All-Star break, and then go on a run. It's hard to turn it off and on in baseball, though.
What do you do? Lastly, before I let you go out of here, what do you do with some of these teams like Kansas City and Oakland? Like all of a sudden, Oakland wins 2 in a row, right? Kansas City has no offense except Perez. Oakland has no offense, but yet the other night I think this kid had 2 home runs against Pittsburgh. Kansas City and Oakland really stink, and we know everything going on with Oakland with the move and everything and the rebuild, and Kansas City's just a bad flat team. Do you, if I hear people say, well, you got to lean these bad teams, you got to lean these baseball is different than say the NBA or the NFL, right? Because
you're laying tons of juice.
Yep.
I mean, you have to figure out. I mean, not to bore everybody with the math, and there's a way to figure out. Okay, get the average. What if Oakland's going to lose 124 games, say. That means they're only going to win the rest of the way. They're going to go at 30-90, roughly. So, how many games are they going to lose when they're getting? We have to lay more than 3-1.
Right.
That's a rough estimate what you're trying to look at. So it'd be easy to say, oh well, if you're getting. If the team against them was only laying minus 170, that's a bargain to beat them. Well, not necessarily, because my part of my strategy in baseball is there's a lot of mediocre teams. Sure, you have maybe 1 or 2 teams that are just god awful, and you kind of want to not really mess around with them unless you get like I think like Atlanta lost the first 2 in Oakland.
Yep.
But before that, Oakland lost like 6 straight. And I think all those prices were too low. So they had, they were minus 220. You were laying minus 215, 240, 230. You would have shot for the best line, but I think with all those matchups should have been 3 or higher. So I think you were getting some value in those. I did play Atlanta 2 of the 3 games. I split. I lost money, but against Pittsburgh, I haven't played them. I actually played Oakland today because Pittsburgh, I think that's an overlay. They shouldn't be laying 184, 179 against Oakland. So it's a difficult balancing act. But I think if you want to have a severe strategy, you don't want to play favorites in those spots. Now, I do have Kansas City today, and I think they're losing to Miami 3-1. Yeah, they're losing 3-1. But I had Kansas City today because, I got a good number. I mean, Cabrera was, I think he closed 180, but I got like something crazy, plus 171, something crazy. But, if they lose, they lose because I don't think you get past Miami's top pitcher. They're not a great team.
That kid's been on fire though. He's hitting 400.
There's pockets of good. I look at the pitching. You look at the matchups. Kansas City is bad, but the White Sox are bad.
Another team we thought were going to be
Nationals the Nationals are bad. You want to say, okay, well, how bad are they? Well, they shouldn't. There's some teams that shouldn't be laying that much jack at home.
Yeah.
Home field advantage for some of these teams. Is there a home field advantage for the Nationals?
No, 12-20. They stink.
Like nobody cares about that. Oh my gosh, we're playing in Washington.
Oakland 7-24, and I think Kansas City's like 9-23 at home.
So that's them at home. They had so they're never going to be laying. But like those in between teams, like the White Sox, even like it's even tough for like Minnesota. Even Minnesota is good. Minnesota had a run where they were laying too much at home. People fall in love with too many home favorites. I think some teams, especially if they can hit. If you're a bad team but you can hit,
right?
You have a decent shot, and if you're getting some plus money on the road. Again, it's a difficult balancing act. There's a lot more into it, but I think if you know what to avoid, it takes a lot out of it. It helps.
Yeah, baseball season like the NBA, very friggin' long. The prop joining us on a Wednesday edition of BYP Back Your Play with Q from our good friends over Play It Again Sports, 1450 Clemens Bridge Road. They're open 7 days a week. Use sports equipment, gear, and more. Swing by the store, in-store pickup. These guys do a fantastic job. Very friendly, a ton of merchandise. All right, so next week, well, obviously, the way it plans out, we should know who won the NBA Finals, right? I mean, I'm trying to figure when would a potential Game 7 would be. Oh, wow.
Could be the end of next week, right?
Wow. Yes. All right. So we'll have
Game 4 will be Sunday.
Yep.
Game 5 would be what, Wednesday?
Game 5 would be Monday the 12th. And then it goes Thursday the 15th, and then Sunday the 18th would be.
So we could be talking about we could be staring at 3-3 in a sense, which would be pretty cool. 3-3 would be good. That would be good, and then we can maybe bounce around Spence and Crawford fight.
We can definitely get into that, of course.
I was going to wait a little while to see.
No. We can start looking at that. We can definitely get into that, and then before we know it, in another week or two, when we get in July, we'll have to really start diving into. You get dog days of summer, and then the NFL. Start to look at some of these divisions, how they break down. So
that's right.
All right, brother. Well, I'm glad to see you got the fan going. You got good air floating through. You got lights. You got camera. You're good to go. There's no, I might have to watch that movie, The Mist or The Fog later. I mean, that's what it feels like down here. It's brutal.
I can't. I'm amazed. I thought it was just overcast, and then when saw the Yankees game got canceled. So, oh,
Yep.
this is serious. Uh, gee, I hope it. I mean, hope it ends, God.
I mean, if frogs start coming down, I know that's the end of it. So, all right, brother. We will we'll do it again next week and always appreciate it. And put the coin in the pocket, pal. Best of luck with your games.
Take care.